Hello, my name is Christin. I'm a Master of Arts student in Theological Studies at Wayland Baptist University, and today I'm here to talk about the Great Psalm Scroll from Qumran Cave 11. Why is this important? Well, prior to the discovery of the Great Psalm Scroll, our two main sources for our biblical text that we have nowadays come from either the Masoretic text or the Latin Vulgate, the Septuagint. The Aleppo Codex, which is the Masoretic text, dates back to the 10th century, whereas the Latin Vulgate dates back to the late 4th century. The Latin Vulgate contains the Septuagint, which is the Greek translation of the Old Testament. Um, the Greek translation was done somewhere towards the 3rd century BCE, but our oldest copy of that text is the Latin Vulgate, which dates back to the 4th century. Now, the Masoretic text, which is the Aleppo Codex and the Latin or the Leningrad Codex, dates back to the 10th century, even though tradition has that it was copied from the Second Temple era, transcribed by the Masoretes all the way up to the 10th century. So the 10th century and the 4th century are the two copies that we have. However, with this discovery of the Great Psalm Scroll, we have an actual Hebrew text of the Psalm scroll that dates back 1,000 years earlier than the Masoretic text. It dates back to the 1st century Common Era, which means that this uh, was transcribed during the time of Jesus, during the time of the disciples, during the time of the apostles. So this document's important to us because it dates back to the time that our Messiah was alive and walked the earth. So the Qumran caves were discovered in 1947 by accident. They were excavated between 1949 and 1955, where they discovered 10 caves with pieces and parts of different biblical texts, almost the entire biblical text that we have today. However, in 1956, another cave was discovered by a Bedouin, and inside there was a treasure trove of documents, including several complete or nearly complete scrolls, including the Great Psalm Scroll. It was unrolled in 1961. It was transcribed, translated, and published in 1965. So these caves that they were discovered in, scholars believe that they were gezizes or genizes, which are basically burial graves for text, scrolls, any writing that contained the Tetragrammaton, the Yod He Wav He of Yahweh. Um, they were buried usually because they were worn out and they needed to be replaced, or they were mistakes within the script that they wanted to get rid of, but they couldn't destroy it because it contained the Tetragrammaton. So the Psalm scroll itself is made of tanned animal skin. It's nearly 14 feet in length. Also found with it were four fragments and five leaves, which were also from that same scroll, amongst other like fragments and pieces inside the cave itself. Um, Unfortunately, due to decomposition, the bottom third of the scroll is either decomposed or just unreadable due to natural events. The scroll contains Psalms from books 4 and 5 of the Psalms that we know. Um, there's 51 compositions. 40 of those compositions are known or from the Masoretic text, with another additional 11 compositions. So 7 of those 11 are known from other sources, but there's 4 that were completely unknown until this discovery. So what's included and excluded are Psalms that are excluded are Psalms 90 to 92, 94 to 100, 106 to 108, and 110 to 117, all from the Masoretic text. What are included are 93, 101 to 105, 109, 118 to 150, as well as the apocryphal text that we were speaking about a minute ago. These texts are the last words of David, which were found in 2 Samuel or 2 Samuel 23 verses 1 through 7. Sirach or Ben Sirach, uh, 51 13 to 20, hymn to the Creator, the Apostrophe to Zion, which is an acrostic, Psalms 151, 154, 155, Plea for Deliverance, and David's Composition, which is a prose inclusion inside the Psalms. So what are the differences between the Masoretic text and the Great Psalm Scroll? Well, first you'll notice that the order is different. They don't follow the canonical order that we're used to. Uh, but remember, it also includes 11 compositions that aren't in our text, as well as excluding 21 psalms that we do have in our text. There's a exclusion of superscriptions that come before some of the psalms, but there's inclusions of new ones or different ones that we don't have. Um, these psalms seem to clean up some of the problems that we have with the Masoretic text. One prime example is Psalm 145, which is an acrostic. In our text, 13 and 14 look natural, but unfortunately, both in the Latin Vulgate or the Septuagint, as well as the Masoretic text, the noon letter is completely left out, even in the oldest copies. However, in the discovery of the Psalm Scroll, 145 contains the noon verses, which is God is faithful in his words and gracious in all his ways. Uh, the other thing is Yahweh is written in the Paleo Hebrew. It's not in the box script that we know of in the Hebrew script, but Paleo Hebrew. Uh, and it contains a prose psalm, which we talked about, which is David compositions. So these differences may be sourced or brought in by the editor, the compiler, the writer of the psalms, or it may be part of the original scrolls. We just don't know. What we do know is that from the discoveries of the Qumran caves, um, books 1 through 3 of the Psalms are pretty much authoritative. They're already not canonized, but they're already grouped together, and that's also proven from some of the caves of Qumran. The problem is books 4 and 5 were evidently in flux during the first century BCE and the first century CE. So they were still in flux and weren't exactly authoritative yet. But however, we know that after the destruction of the temple and destruction of the Qumran, that the rabbinical version, which is 1 through 150, are the ones that we have in our scripts today. Thank you.